Howdy, howdy.
Howdy!
And welcome to But It Was Aliens! The extraterrestrial comedy podcast from two allegedly truthfully fully qualified ufologists, paranormologists, and archaeologists.
Dig, dig, dig.
I'm your host this week, Indiana Greybeard, and alongside me, as always, is Short Round Moonwalker. This week, Short Round, we are taking a scene out of your favourite movie. Crack out your whip and let's get Indiana Jonesing up in this biatch. Or should it be or should that be Indiana Jonesing?
My favourite movie, eh?
Indeed.
So, what is my favourite movie?
So, I mentioned Mooney's favourite movie, which, as we all, of course, know, is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Dick. I don't even recognise it as a film.
You do, because last time we went over this, you could only name two of the other ones.
Yeah, true. I'm not that big of an indie fan.
You are today.
Well, Crystal Skull it up then, Scully.
Well, actually, I've got a step up on the crystal, my friends. Today, we are heading to the Rhodope Mountains.
The Rhodope Mountains?
The Rhodope are a mountain range, predominantly in Bulgaria, though they do cross into Greece too. The area includes deep river gorges and large caves, and is, of course, sparsely populated.
Isn't that where Rusev's from?
Could be.
It's Rusev Day!
He's Miro these days. Industry in the area includes mining and hydropower, and now probing. For you see, during my time at Marshall College, I was reading an academic journal on a particularly interesting finding from the Rhodope Mountain region when Soviet agents working under Irina Spalko swept into my academic institution and kidnapped me. They took me to Hangar 51 and asked me to identify the finding I had been reading about. Luckily for me, I escaped and stumbled upon a nearby model town, but unluckily for me, it turned out to be a nuclear testing town. I scrambled around for cover and stumbled across an old lead-lined fridge. I climbed inside and was therefore completely and scientifically plausibly shielded from the nuclear blast before the FBI rescued me shortly after. Just for reference, the odds of surviving an atomic bomb in a lead fridge aren't great, but I'm Indiana Greybeard.
How did you escape? Did you grease yourself up and slide out the bars? Or did you offer favours for them to turn their eye while you made your escape?
I just escaped.
Yeah, how?
I got in a fight and stuff. I cracked my whip.
Strapped myself to a bunch of sea turtles.
That's exactly what I did. With hair from my back. I mean, I came up with this all myself. I haven't had any inspiration.
I really wasn't expecting a start like that, so I have no idea what's to come.
I haven't really given you much to go on so far, admittedly.
I mean, did you look up how scientifically plausible climbing into a lead fridge and surviving the blast?
I did, and it wasn't great. I don't recall how ungreat, but it was quite not great.
Would you just get rattled about in it and then die that way, or would you still get exposed?
Both.
Oh.
But there is a chance. So you're telling me there's a chance? Moving away from my Indiana Greybeard escapades, let's go deeper on that finding I mentioned. My research tells me that a 38-year-old man from Plovdiv, a city 90 miles or 150 kilometres southeast of the capital city of Bulgaria, Sofia, begun having dreams in which 5 humanoids, that's 5, not 13, 5 humanoids wearing metallic yellow suits visited the man to direct him towards a spot on the Rhodope range. On the 21st of May 2001, the man headed to the spot as he had been directed. I'd just like to add here that the man knows how this sounds and so has chosen to remain anonymous. He hasn't sought attention for himself, and all he has done is passed on to academia what he found. The man went as asked by the five, and indeed, exactly where he had been told, the man found a skull.
Was it a human skull, an iron skull, metallic skull, crystal skull, diamond skull, ruby skull, skull of leaves, skullduggery?
Was it skullduggery? Was it skull kid?
Scully herself, skull kid.
Wearing Miora's mask.
Was it a pair of, I've got all that way with skulls and I forgot what those headphones are called. Skull candies.
Oh, yeah. Well done,
Did you
sir.
find a pair of skull candies? Is that what it was?
Which question would you like me to answer first?
All of them.
So the first one, remind me what the first one was?
Was it a human skull? Was it a skull of iron? A skull of metal?
You've missed out the one obvious one.
A skull of crystal?
Was it a skull of
diamond?
skull?
Was it Skull Island? Are we going to go to Skull Island? Is King Kong up in this bitch? You said my favourite movie, son.
Yeah, Crystal Skull. The savagery in your eyes right now. You should go back and watch it. It might hold up better than you remember.
Never seen it.
You've never seen it?
No.
But it's your favourite movie. Is it because of what you were doing during the movie? I love how you're just going to let me get away with the 5 aliens coming to someone in their dreams.
Yeah, it's fine.
So
we've covered enough that I'm just going to let it fly.
We are going to have lots of evidence today, and we are going to cover what type of skull it is.
Good. Skullduggery.
And we're going to get to that quite soon. But not just yet.
The skullduggery.
There might be some skullduggery. The skull was buried alongside a small, oval-shaped metal object. I have a photo of the metal object for you, and to be honest, I have no freaking idea what this is. To me, it looks ever so slightly like Pac-Man, but I'll let you judge. As you're probably starting to realise, as I have a photo already, yes indeed, I am going to be hitting you with legit, hard evidence today, and you're going to lose your shit.
Okay, so we have a
The metal fragment that was found with the skull?
metal fragment that looks like a dinosaur head.
It does, yeah, I'll give you that.
And there's a cigarette underneath it.
For scale.
I mean, it could... You say it's metal.
It is, yeah.
It could just be anything, though.
Have you ever found metal ore? That's exactly what it looks like.
I haven't.
You'd never been mining?
No.
You never dug a hole?
No.
Let's describe the skull itself.
Dinosaur skull.
It is as small as a human baby's skull, but the bone structure is both lighter and thinner.
Is that a monkey?
The skull weighs 250 grams, that's 8.8 ounces. There are small holes, like the pores on skin, which people felt was likely to protect the bones from pressure. The weirdest bit, though, is that the skull has 6 cavities. Those who have examined the skull think that these cavities are the alien creature's sensory organs. They could be eyes or could be some other organ. So for our listeners, picture Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean with his tentacle beard, kind of like that, but 6 of them, with some being higher on the head. There was also not a mouth. At least, not where we'd expect the mouth to be. Professor Dimitar Kovachev remains certain that this thing is not a fossil and does not resemble any hominid skull presently known. I'll get on to who he is shortly, but the professor stated in his own words that they couldn't find analogy or correlation with anything from the past 30 million years.
Ooh. And you've got a picture of Davy Jones for me there.
Yeah, as I explained, just for the listeners. So imagine holes in the face, like where Davy Jones has the...
Tentacles?
Yeah. It basically had holes where there shouldn't be holes.
Is it? I know it's a skull. Mm-hmm. I mean, if it's got holes where it shouldn't be holes, could it just be an octopus? I've never seen an octopus skull, so...
Interesting theory. I suppose Davy Jones is based on kind of an octopusy, squiddy, kraken kind of thing, isn't he?
Could it just be another part of a skeletal structure that looks skull-like, or is it actual skull?
It's a skull, and we're going to get deeper into that shortly. Like I said, we've got an awful lot of evidence coming up.
I mean, we also don't have a picture of the skull yet, so...
Yet.
As you can tell, I'm guessing away here.
I'm building towards it.
Oh, you're building, are you? Fucking Bob the Builder.
Bit rude. The man initially presented what he had found to a small circle of folks interested in the paranormal, as he knew they'd consider the skull rather than judging and mocking him. But the skull did not stay a secret for long. Archaeologist Katja Malame of the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences.
Sorry. Can we call her Malamet?
We can call her Malamet if you'd rather.
Sounds cooler.
Malamet, I don't know which it is, to be fair.
Sorry if it is Malame, but it sounds cooler, Malamet.
Archaeologist Katja Malamet and also Professor Dimitar Kovachev, the director of the Paleontology Museum in Azanovgrad, were both tasked with examining the skull. Neither academic had ever seen anything quite like this before. No shit, it's an alien. Reportedly, initial DNA analysis did not match any known species on Earth. X-rays, meanwhile, are said to have shown that the skull most likely contained a brain and confirmed that there were no seams anywhere in the skull. The skull was also dense with blood vessels. I do have the images of the X-rays to prove that this too did take place.
I mean, I'm looking at X-rays here, but I can't, apart from the first one looking like a brain.
So one is top down, one is side on, I believe, and one is front on. We're getting closer to seeing the skull.
Oh, so I take it the middle one's side on.
Yes.
Side on!
I believe so.
I mean, that's a pretty cool looking skull when you look like front on.
Indeed. So what you're looking at the moment, what do you picture the skull looking like?
It's a predator.
What makes you say that?
Predator! Because it literally does look like a predator helmet. Front
Well,
on.
this is a skull, not a helmet.
Those bottom bits are the eyes. You can see those two little dark ovals at the bottom. Mm-hmm. I'm actually hovering my pointer over them, like you can see. And then, that top bit looks like that skull-like part, cranium part of the mask.
Okay.
And then it could just be like all the predators have different types of masks, so that's what it looks like.
Right.
I know the mask isn't their skull, but
that's the image you're conceptualizing.
Pretty fucking cool.
Well, I guess at this point you want to see what we're talking about.
I want to see a predator.
I guess I'll oblige, but I warn you, once you've seen, you can never go back. Take a look at these and tell me what you see, sir.
Ooh. What? Okay. I don't know how to make that out. So there is a weird, kind of like you said, Davy Jones tentacle-faced creature, except it only has two little tentacles at the front. Kind of like if you were to zoom in on an insect and see it up close, that's what it kind of looks like.
Yeah. I'm getting Davy Jones mixed with Krang vibes. Shredder.
It just looks like he's got a Kung Lao hat on in the first one.
Evolved a shell for skull protection.
Yeah, his nose is a love heart. And I wouldn't say a love heart, his nose is a heart. But not a human heart. You know what I mean.
So you can see why people are stumped, right?
I can. I mean, it looks cool as fuck. I'm not gonna lie. Is it possible that the skull is a creature from the deep that we've not been able to identify yet because we've not gone that deep?
I mean, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. You'd wonder what it's doing where it was found in the Rhodope mountain range and whatnot.
Could it be some kind of... I mean, there's only one, isn't there?
There could
One skull found.
Yeah, and the person found it after a vision.
I was going to say, could it be the skull of some kind of evolution of a creature that was not found, but that is only found in those mountain ranges?
Okay, well, here's a closer look at the skull. So, when you look at this even more closely, does it change your mind at all on what it could be?
No. Those are predator fangs. We have a predator. Predators are real. I knew it. When was this found?
I believe it was 2001.
2001. So, this could be the skull of the predator that fought Danny Glover. The skull could have just been moved to another location or dropped off, or as the ship left, it flew over Bulgaria, crashed.
Predator was actually a documentary.
And then the skulls are kind of plotted all around the country somewhere, like where they've fallen. They're all in Bulgaria. It was a crashed ship. The skulls made it out. Danny Glover and the Predator were real. I know Danny Glover's real, but Predator, son.
So it's almost like I knew where you were going to go here, because
of course you did.
The more I look at it, the more I see Predator. Look at the facial structure. It has the weird flesh pincer things rather than a mouth. It has a big skull with a base for the dreads. Was Predator based on a true story? Did commandos fight an alien predator in the Bulgarian mountains? Coming into this one, I thought when I found the skull it was going to be bullshit, so when I saw this, it blew my mind.
A theory has just come to mind though.
Yep.
What if someone has created a predator skull?
Well, that's what I said earlier. There was no evidence of any seams or anything on it. They couldn't find anything, and the DNA was showing that it wasn't anything we knew.
Shit, son. Predator! Predator! Wish I could do a predator sound effect. You're about to do The Grudge.
Wow. Yeah, when you look at it, there's really not much else you can see, is there?
Nope.
It's got every hallmark of what you'd expect to find in a predator skull. We'll upload these pictures onto our Instagram at But It Was Aliens podcast, so you folks can see them as well.
So you know where the two eye sockets are, and then you've got what looks to be a nose socket.
Mm-hmm.
That crack underneath it looks like it could be a mouth, like part of the jaw,
could
rather than
potentially
a crack itself. That's a face. It's a predator.
There are a lot of theories out there on this thing, as I'm sure you can imagine. Famous Bulgarian psychic Kubrat Tomov has stated that this skull belonged to a genetically engineered creature created by our old friends, the Atlanteans. Tomov believes that the skull is the result of a failed experiment many thousands of years ago. That's not dissimilar to the predator concept of mixing DNA and creating the ultimate species. But what I think these folks have missed is that the skull has been taken from its resting place. Things are not going to go well if it is not returned.
Do you reckon if you hold the skull, a predator comes for you?
I reckon you can communicate with past predators. Problem is they speak a different language.
Where's the skull now?
So people just go crazy. We'll get onto where the skull is.
Pack your bags, son. We're going on a mission.
We're going on a road trip.
If this was created by the Atlanteans, do you think it was created as a weapon? Like a bodyguard of type?
Possibly. They could have been perfecting what they could do with species on this planet mixed with other species from other planets to protect themselves. Or we've covered before theories around how they were trying to make like the ultimate mining servant civilization to serve them. I don't know the answer. I'm not even saying that's the right theory here because I'm about to go on to another one. There's another theory out there which I kind of feel like you're going to like. During the Second World War, soldiers were operating in the region. Now we know that the military forces of the times had an interest in the paranormal and were looking for any leg up they could find. Is this the remains of an encounter the military had with an alien species? The remains were hastily buried, suggesting this extraterrestrial creature was killed and then covered up by soldiers operating during World War II. Did Arnie and his squad venture to the Bulgarian mountains only to be targeted by an intergalactic species intent on hunting them down for sport? Did Arnie mud himself up and ultimately overcome the predator, burying the evidence for what they believed would be forever until visions came to an unknown man to uncover what had happened?
You've mentioned Arnie and you've mentioned a predator. How can I not be in? You've given me a predator skull and a picture of a predator in here.
All I need to do with any case moving forward is just drop a little predator in the corner of the screen and it's going to chill you out. You'll be like, hypnotic regression? Oh, that's a predator. Okay.
Of course it was real. So do you think there was... So they've had a altercation with an extraterrestrial species whilst, like, during Second World War?
Possibly, yep.
So why do we have no evidence of this? No stories, no written papers, or is everyone dead?
Well, we know for a fact that Nazis tried to cover up a lot of what they were doing. We only had the odd record that points towards their paranormal research into like Atlanteans in Tibet and that kind of thing. They could have been doing all sorts that we don't know about. There were rumours of all sorts. Who's to say it was even the Nazis? It could have been one of the Allied forces for all we know.
Yeah.
Everyone was looking for a leg up.
I imagine you looking for a leg up and you find a predator.
And it just ruins everyone. You think you've got a leg up.
Yeah, it's true.
And then it destroys you.
You just chuck your gun down, make yourself out to be a little bitch, and then point a predator towards some prey. These motherfuckers shooting at him. Speaking of prey, need to watch that new Predator film when it comes out.
The trailer looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When is that out?
Next month.
So that'll probably be out around the time this is dropping. All of this is well and good, but what do the skeptics say? Skeptics believe that this skull belongs to an as yet unidentified animal species. Whilst
Whoa, sorry. Would it not be an as yet identified?
No. As yet, it's unidentified.
Yeah, sorry.
You confused the hell out of me there. You looked at me so intently as well. I was like, what? Whilst the features do not resemble any other line of animals, it's hard to rule out that this could be a missing link between some species or even something outlandish like a land octopus. I guess without additional analysis, it is just hard to say anything other than it isn't something we know of. Currently. It could be earthly, but we can't say it definitely is. Do you have any non-alien ideas of what this thing could be? You already mentioned earlier on octopuses, coincidentally.
I did. But the more you look at the skull, the less octopus-like it looks like.
I feel like I put that in your mind a little bit by showing you Davy Jones.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I show you Predator. Although you'd already got there before I show you.
I mean, it's the only one found. If there was more, I would just, because I'd say it was some kind of creature.
Yeah. As far
as yet to be identified, but there's only one of them.
So as far as I'm aware, there hasn't been any further searches of the area. Why?
They know what's there. They don't want to disturb the land. They got lucky with this one. Only one. 70 men entered. 1 man left. And now the predator's hunting everyone that touches the skull.
Yeah. They can tell who's touched it and everyone's marked. The predator's now hunting.
He's going on a road trip. I might get that for a new tattoo, actually. The
skull?
Predator laser.
Okay.
But not on my forehead.
How about the skull?
On my ass. I've already got a predator skull.
But the Rhodope skull, the real one?
No.
And a picture below it of me dressed up as Indiana Jones, Indiana Greybeard. Dee.
I think you should get that.
Anyway, Next on the to-do list for all involved was to, of course, complete more in-depth DNA analysis and carbon date the skull. We need to know how old it is. The unknown man had received offers to sell the skull, but refused as he too wanted to know how old it was, and ultimately what it was. The skull was kept at the Regional Historical Museum in Plovdiv for initial analysis and was then transferred to another museum to enable this more in-depth analysis. Unfortunately, during this transfer, the skull would disappear.
Of course it would.
They got to it! Freaking MIBs! MIBs, son! The unknown man, being unknown, cannot be contacted to find out what exactly happened, and the second museum isn't named.
Predator showed up.
All we know is that the skull just vanished. All we have now are these few academic testimonies and the photos, to which it now feels very fortunate that photos were actually taken. If anyone is interested, I'll link to an article on soulguidance.com in the episode notes, which has many of the photos of the skull from various angles, and we'll post some of them on our Instagram at But It Was Aliens Podcast, as I said earlier. But yeah, unfortunately, the physical evidence, whilst it was known to exist and was recorded, disappeared.
Do you reckon they desecrated this grave of a predator and it triggered like an alarm, and the other predators were like,
they came
we're
to
coming to find that motherfucker,
get the remains of their fallen comrade.
Brethren.
Probably not the right word there, but daddy or mummy or person that doesn't identify as either of those turned up.
Preds
turned up.
Dread Preds. There's no account of what happened at all, is there?
Nope.
Is everyone that was on that convoy still alive?
Don't know. It's all mysterious. What's known is it was at the Regional Historical Museum in Plovdiv. They've documented it. They transferred it to another museum. Don't know which museum, and it disappeared. That's literally all. Just trail goes completely dead. It's like someone's trying to cover it up.
I can't think of anything other than the predators intercepting it. I'm not even going to blame any rich motherfucker that really wanted it as a centerpiece in their mansion.
I hadn't even thought of that.
And was like, give me that skull.
Raided.
So there's all skullduggery going on in the background. See, I told you it was skullduggery.
To be fair, if anyone deserves to be robbed, it's probably a museum.
Yep.
Everything in there is robbed. From somewhere.
So, yeah.
One of the main sources for this story is the January the 4th, 2002 issue of Turkish newspaper Milliyet, outlining the May 2001 discovery. Leyla Degerman was listed as the UFO Roundup correspondent in this article detailing the discovery. The weird thing is that pretty much all other primary sources for this file have vanished. It's as if someone doesn't want the information out there. We know this happened, there are photos, but the trail is just cold. I'll show you a photo of the academic study in the skull just to further hit home. This happened. But those early DNA and x-rays aren't listed in the original story, so it's tough to confirm where this information even came from. Being in Bulgarian doesn't help matters when you read English, but as I say, the trail is hard to trace on this one, yet it clearly happened, but the evidence has gone missing and the initial sources seem to have been wiped, or at least all the sources quote each other rather than the initial research. This is pretty much the entire story. I've been out with my trusty whip exploring various temples, but this one has gone cold, vanished into thin air, almost as if the aliens have gone to a different dimension, like the ending of your favourite film, Mooney. And that is just a photo of a couple of the academics looking at the skull, like I say, to prove this did happen. It involved legit people.
Desecrated the grave of a baby pred.
At what point can a predator fend for itself?
From the age of 2.
They got it at 1.9.
Yep.
Couple more days and they'd have been screwed.
Hadn't earned its laser yet. It was one pred versus 500. And it took out 499 of them. Just missed the one. I mean, that is, I wouldn't say creepy, but it's definitely dodgy that now all things are starting to kind of disappear that have been documented before. And that picture is real. Like, that's not a doctored image.
Yeah.
I mean, they've both got nice glasses. And hair.
I'm about to summarise this one, but I think basically there's only two theories worth looking at for it.
Okay.
I mean, it's either completely real and been covered up, or it's completely a hoax. But yeah, we'll get to that in a minute and think about what we can think about. Summing today's case up, we've had an unknown man from Plovdiv being visited in his dreams by 5 alien figures. The humanoids directed the man to a site in the Rhodope mountain range, wanting him to dig. Almost like how in Crystal Skull that man is driven mad by the alien skull, asking the man to return the skull to where it belongs. The unknown man went to the mountain on the 21st of May 2001, and sure enough, he found what he had been directed to find, a skull unlike anything ever recovered before. The skull resembled a mixture of Davy Jones and Predator. It had 6 sensory cavities but no mouth where you'd expect, although we did wonder whether there was a mouth after all. Academics couldn't determine what it was in the initial studies. The skull was transferred from the Regional Historic Museum in Plovdiv but went missing, and that's where the story ends. We have documented evidence that the skull existed and was analysed to a degree, but then the trail goes cold and it is tough to say whether the authorities knew this was legit and covered it up, or whether those involved knew that it was a hoax, so destroyed the evidence before it could be proven. Is there anything you want to go over before we come to a difficult conclusion?
No.
So, are you saying that it was aliens? It's a tough one.
As much as I want to, I'm not saying this was aliens. But it was aliens!
Like, what?
I'm in. This is aliens.
You've credited yourself.
Yep. That skull's real.
Ooh, son.
I don't even give a shit if you fucking double cross me at
No,
the end here.
I don't have any. I've given you literally
evidence.
All the evidence, and it's just down to you what you believe.
God damn aliens.
So I struggled with this one a little bit. For me, it was really convincing, but the fact that the evidence went missing to me was an alarm bell. As I said, this one comes down to whether you believe it was a hoax or whether you believe the authorities covered it up before it could be proven without doubt. And for me, I don't have quite enough, but being a suspicious bastard, I also don't trust the authorities. As I started this one, I was actually going to write it out as a full indie tale, but I'd have had to stretch the facts to do so, which just didn't seem quite right to do. I didn't want to mislead people, but then when I saw the skull, that's a frickin' predator, son. The story told itself. It's been a tough one today, folks, and I thought by the time I'd gone over it, I'd have a conclusion, but I still don't really know. I'm massively on the fence.
Join me.
I really want to see more, to be sure, but we say no so often.
To be sure.
And to be sure, we say no so often. We really do, and sometimes you've got to take a little walk on the wild side. So, I'm not saying that it was aliens.
Say it.
Any final thoughts before we close?
But it was aliens!
I could have gone either way on this one. Honestly, I really could have. I want to see more evidence and DNA analysis, but got to have a little fun every now and then, didn't you?
It's not even fun. Oh, fuck me, I just got cramp in my hamstring.
Predator's lasered him. He's heard the skull. They're onto him.
Ah, fuck me.
Right, Moonwalker is dying, and that's a wrap for today. Thank you for listening to But It Was Aliens. If you enjoy what we do and want to help out, you can stick a few pennies in the pro pot over at patreon.com/But It Was Aliens. Each month, we produce an exclusive side probe into more widely paranormal events and conclude as to whether the events discussed really did involve ghosts or monsters or telepathic sex pests, whatever we have been covering. Do you know what I've been thinking? At some point, we plan to turn the main show more paranormal. When are we going to do that? We've still got about 300 alien cases, and that list grows every other week in what we plan to probe. But at some point, we are going to increase the more widely paranormal coverage, I think.
I think it's just going to have to be inevitable.
Yeah, I mean,
Inevitable.
it seems that our most popular episodes are either the really huge alien ones like Roswell or Sex Painter. Not that that's a well-known story, but people loved it. Or outside of that, it's the non-alien ones mainly. Let us know.
If I can talk, but my hamstring fucking killed me.
He's proper struggling over there. So, yeah, on that note, we'll be back here next week with another extraterrestrial tale. Unless you're not listening in order, in which case we could be back in your ears at any point. But until next time, if the elbow is the funny bone, where is the happy bone? The truth is up there. #probe. Indiana Greybeard and the Rhodope Skull.
The reason they call it happy endings.